I cooked a special anniversary dinner while recovering from surgery. My father-in-law took one look, called it trash, and ordered everyone takeout. They threw my food in the garbage. I sat alone crying until a delivery box arrived from my lawyer because I had my gallbladder removed 3 weeks before our 10th wedding anniversary. The doctor said it was routine, but recovery hit me harder than I expected. I was tired all the time, sore, and couldn't lift anything heavier than a half-gallon of milk. Still, I pushed myself. Because this anniversary was important to me. Not just the milestone, 10 years, but because deep down I was trying to fix something. Something I hadn't said out loud. Our marriage had changed. My husband, Jake, was drifting. He'd stopped making an effort months ago. Barely touched me. Barely talked unless it was small stuff. I figured maybe a home-cooked meal, just the 4 of us, would help reset things. So I planned everything carefully. I ordered fresh rosemary, peeled and mashed sweet potatoes by hand. I even baked bread. I had to sit down every few minutes because the pain in my side would throb. I was sweating and pale, but I kept going. I made cranberry almond salad with homemade dressing because Jake's dad had once mentioned liking that combo. I was trying to be thoughtful. Even though his parents never once lifted a finger to help me after the surgery. When they showed up, the first thing Jake's mom said was, "You didn't get your hair done?" Then she walked right into my kitchen without asking. Jake's dad grunted something about traffic, but he didn't even look at me. I smiled, pretending not to notice. I had the table set with candles, real napkins, even wine. Jake barely glanced at it before going to sit on the couch. He turned on the TV. His mom joined him. His dad just stood near the table, staring at the food like it offended him. "This the chicken?" he asked, poking it with a fork like it was a science experiment. "Yeah," I said, still trying to sound upbeat. "It's rosemary roasted with lemon zest." "I thought we could." He cut me off. "This smells like something they serve in a hospital cafeteria. You sure you didn't cook this with your 4 still in?" I laughed nervously, hoping it was a joke. But he turned and said, loud and clear, "I'm not eating this trash." Then he pulled out his phone and ordered takeout. Just like that. "We'll get real food," he said. "This is embarrassing." Jake didn't say a word. Not one word. He just gave me this tiny shrug like, "What can you do?" His mom giggled. I stood there, my side aching, stomach tight, watching them pretend I wasn't there. And then I watched as they dumped my food in the trash. I'm not exaggerating. His mom literally took the entire bowl of salad and flipped it into the bin. The chicken. The bread I'd baked from scratch. Gone. The smell of orange chicken filled the house an hour later. I was still sitting at the table. No one asked me to join. No one said sorry. Jake even turned his chair so his back was to me. Like he couldn't stand to look at me. I got up and went to the couch. Tried to sleep there because I didn't want to lie beside him. But I didn't sleep at all. My body hurt, but my heart hurt worse. Not just from that night, but from the years of slowly being erased. His parents always talked down to me. Jake never defended me. I had to ask for things like respect. Like I was begging for crumbs. The next day, a box showed up from my lawyer. I'd asked for a copy of my revised will just in case anything happened during surgery. I wasn't expecting it to show up that day. I opened it and saw the envelope, the documents. And a yellow post-it note stuck on top. If anything changes, remember, you have options. I sat down and read the entire packet. Slowly. Every line. I realized I'd signed more than just a will. I'd signed power of attorney documents. I'd listed beneficiaries. I had, in a very real and legal way, taken inventory of my life and what would happen to it if I were gone. And in doing that, I realized something. I'd never done that while living. That's when the idea of revenge started forming. Not out of rage, not even out of anger, but out of clarity. If I died, they'd inherit nothing. If I lived, maybe they'd still lose everything they thought they had. After that dinner, something in me shut off. I didn't tell Jake I was upset. I didn't argue. I just went quiet. I started observing him instead of trying to connect. I saw how little effort he made to check on me post-surgery. How he let his parents come and go without once considering how I felt. He never mentioned the dinner again. Never apologized. It was like he didn't think anything was wrong. 2 days later, I found the receipt from the takeout order on the kitchen counter. $93.64. Jake had used our joint card. I stared at it for a long time, wondering how a man could let his wife cook for hours while healing, say nothing when his parents insulted her, and then charge her account for the replacement meal. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to play wife anymore. I called my lawyer and scheduled a meeting. Quietly, without telling Jake. We updated some documents, revised my will again, this time removing Jake entirely. I shifted my emergency savings into a separate account he didn't know about. I wasn't planning to divorce him. Not yet. I wanted to be smart. I wanted to see how deep the rot went. A week later, I got my answer. Jake's dad had another one of his family nights, which meant everyone comes to their place. I cook, his mom complains, and Jake watches football while I clean up. I told Jake I wasn't feeling up to it. He said, "Come on, just suck it up. Don't make it a thing." I said no. He left without me. When he came back around midnight, I pretended to be asleep. He dropped his keys on the dresser and mumbled to himself, "What a king baby." Then got in bed like nothing happened. That weekend, I noticed Jake's mom had posted photos on Facebook from the dinner. She'd written, "Another lovely family meal. Thank God for delivery. No bland nonsense this time." I felt sick. I realized then that they'd done this before, talked about me behind my back, mocked me, erased me from their family moments. Jake didn't just allow it. He fed it. So I started collecting screenshots of texts, audio from the night they threw my food out. I had a camera in the living room for our dog. It picked up everything. I saved receipts, messages, dates. I created a private folder labeled Fallout Plan. 3 weeks later, I tested Jake. I asked him if he'd be willing to go to counseling. Just to talk. Just to clear the air. He looked at me like I was insane. Why would I waste money on that? You're the one who's been all emotional lately. Then he said, "Honestly, you haven't really been holding your weight since the surgery. Maybe if you stopped playing the victim, things would be better." That was it. I had loved this man. For 10 years. I gave him my time, my body, my energy. I worked full-time, paid bills, cooked, cleaned, helped him get through job layoffs, backed him when his parents called him weak. And here he was, gaslighting me in my own home, after letting his parents humiliate me, after I'd done everything I could to make him feel loved. I realized I didn't want to save the marriage anymore. I wanted to make sure they all knew exactly what they threw away and what it would cost them. Once I made up my mind, things moved quickly. Because I'd already been preparing without fully realizing it. The first real twist came from my job. I'm a senior project coordinator for a healthcare nonprofit based in Richmond. Quiet, decent work. I keep my head down. A few weeks after that counseling conversation, our HR director called me in. She asked if I'd be open to applying for a remote leadership position out of the San Diego office. It came with a 30% pay bump and relocation assistance. I asked for 48 hours to think. I didn't tell Jake. I went home and ran the numbers. If I left, I could be financially independent. And I already had a lawyer ready. That night, Jake left his phone on the kitchen counter. Not locked. Stupid. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. He wasn't cheating. At least not sexually. But the group chat with his parents and older brother? It broke me. They called me dramatic. Dead weight. His mom wrote, "She plays sick to get attention. Always has. I told you she'd never bounce back. Maybe now you can find someone who knows how to shut up and smile." Jake replied, trying. "She's hanging on like a leech. If I push too hard, she'll take half of everything." His dad, "You better protect the house. She didn't pay for most of it anyway." His brother, "Tell her she can keep the dishes. That's about her level." That thread went on for months. While I was recovering, while I was cooking for them, while I was trying to hold things together, they were mocking me. Plotting how to cut me out. I copied the entire conversation and emailed it to myself. The next twist? I found out Jake had refinanced our home 6 months earlier, without telling me. He pulled equity to cover debt from his failed Amazon store project. I was on the deed, but not the loan, so technically it was legal. But immoral? Beyond. He'd gambled with our house, lied about it, and then let me cook and clean while I healed from surgery, while they planned how to throw me out. I confronted my lawyer. She walked me through my options. I could fight him for the house. Or I could hit him where it hurt more, his reputation, his stability, and the respect he still thought he had. That's when I stopped reacting emotionally and started moving surgically. I accepted the job in San Diego. I asked HR for a delayed start, 90 days, to handle family matters. They agreed. Then I waited. I went back to playing the quiet, passive wife. I let Jake believe he was winning. I smiled, cooked simple meals, kept the peace. He had no idea I was draining half our joint account every 2 weeks into a separate legal trust. No clue that I had a forensic accountant reviewing the refinance. No idea I was making phone calls to his employer about anonymous whistleblower concerns about misreported side income he failed to disclose. The pieces were moving. The picture was forming. And when the final box came in the mail, when I ordered myself from a third-party legal courier, I placed it on the dinner table and said, "Jake, your father thought my food was trash. Let's see how he likes what I'm serving next." The courier box sat in the center of the table for almost 2 hours. Jake didn't touch it. He kept glancing at it while pretending to scroll through his phone. I didn't speak. I just made tea, sat across from him, and waited. Eventually, he said, "What is this? More drama?" I smiled. "You'll find out soon enough." Inside that box was the beginning of the end for him and his family. My lawyer had prepared preliminary divorce documents, but we weren't filing yet. Instead, we were sending a formal disclosure to Jake's employer and the IRS about his concealed income streams. I had evidence, screen recordings, Venmo transfers, and even saved TikToks of him bragging about side hustles. The box also included a copy of the equity refinancing paperwork, with my handwritten notes pointing out the forged signature. He'd faked my initials on one disclosure form. Not a huge crime, but enough to get leverage. I never raised my voice. I never cried. I let the silence speak.
And it worked.
That night, he left to clear his head and ended up at his parents' house. The same house where they had once said I didn't know my place. That was fine.
I needed him out of the way.
While he was gone, I contacted our mortgage company with the documentation of the forged signature. I filed a formal complaint. I also moved out, temporarily, to a short-term apartment my company covered as part of the relocation package. I took only what was mine. The rest, I left in place, including the copy of the group chat printouts, neatly stacked on our bed. His parents called. Multiple times. I didn't answer. Jake texted me 4 days later. "We need to talk. You're taking this too far." I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer. I knew what was coming. He'd go to his parents. He'd lie. He'd say I was unstable. Maybe even try to flip the story. But I had every piece in place. Every receipt. Every dollar traced. Every insult documented. Then, just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse for him, just as I expected, his father did the one thing I hoped for. He tried to threaten me. He showed up at my temporary apartment door. Alone. Holding his phone up, recording, acting calm. Said he just wanted to talk. Said he had a lawyer friend who could make all this go away. I let him talk. Let him ramble. Then I pointed to the hallway corner, where my phone sat recording the entire thing, in full view. "Get off my property," I said. "Or, I'll let your boss watch this next." Because what Jake never told his dad was that his employer, the one he bragged to about being a consultant, I'd already contacted them. With evidence. They were investigating him quietly. And his father's small business? Depended on contracts with that same company. He walked away without saying another word. Jake called me again that night. Voicemails. Texts. He tried to guilt me. Begged me to talk. But I wasn't done yet. I was going to take back my name, my peace, and my future. But before I did, I was going to burn every lie they built around me to the ground. I waited exactly 2 more weeks. In that time, Jake lost his job. His employer completed the investigation I helped spark. They found undeclared side income, violations of his contract, and failure to report financial conflicts of interest, including deals done through his father's small company. His father tried to bluff his way through it, but it was too late. The contract renewal they were depending on was pulled. Quietly but completely. They lost their biggest client. Jake came home to find a termination letter in his inbox. He called me that night screaming into the phone. "You ruined everything." I didn't answer. I just forwarded his voicemail to my lawyer. Again. Because what he didn't know was that the IRS had also opened an inquiry. Those payments he thought he could hide? I'd already provided full documentation, including the dates he used our joint returns to fudge numbers. I gave the IRS what they needed to start digging. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I filed for divorce. Not a quiet, no-fault filing. A full legal offensive. Fraud, financial concealment, and emotional abuse, backed by affidavits, screenshots, even the video from my living room the night they dumped my food in the trash. My lawyer attached a written statement where I described everything I endured: the mocking, the physical recovery, the emotional isolation. It was all there. And then I made my final move. I sent copies of the group chat thread, highlighted, annotated, to Jake's extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. All the people who had once smiled at our wedding. People who thought I was just dramatic. I let them see what their precious golden son and his parents really thought of me. The fallout was immediate. One of his cousins messaged me, "I had no idea. I'm so sorry." Another one wrote, "They always treated you like crap. Good for you for walking." Jake's mother tried to call me 3 times. She even left a voicemail, sobbing, saying it was all misunderstood. I didn't answer. I didn't respond. I let the silence speak for me, just like I had at that dinner table. The divorce was finalized just before I left for San Diego. I didn't fight for the house. I didn't want it. I let it go, but I forced Jake to sell it. My lawyer negotiated hard, using the forged signature as leverage. The proceeds were split, but not equally. I got enough to start over with comfort. Jake? He moved back in with his parents. The last time I saw him was at mediation. He looked worn down, angry.
Hello.
"I hope you're happy," he muttered under his breath as we walked out. I turned and said calmly, "I finally am. Now I live in a small condo overlooking the bay. I have peace, space, and people who respect me. I cook for myself, quietly. No more begging for approval. No more pretending to be part of a family that only ever wanted a servant." Sometimes I think about that night. The food, the trash, the silence. And I don't feel pain anymore. I feel power. Because they thought I was weak. But I didn't break. I rebuilt. And I made sure they never forget what it cost them.